All right, everybody. Hey, it's Tuesday, 12 noon Eastern Time. That means it's now time for Let's Talk Junk with Junk Removal Authority. I am Lee Godbold, and here at Junk Removal Authority, we help junk removal business owners make more money and live a better life. Today's topic of discussion is going to be how to outpace all the new guys. So, junk removal forums all the time, there's people talking about, there's new guys coming in, and in our market, we've probably had 3 new guys pop in over the last year, maybe 3 or 4. Everybody's talking about, there's new companies that are coming into the junk removal industry. A lot of people point towards YouTube, or they point towards these Facebook groups as being the reason for the influx of new people. This is actually a trend that's been happening for a long period of time, and there's some great positives. There's a lot of increased demand that we're going to talk about in this episode. Before we get started today, I do want to tell you about our video training and testing series, the junk removal industry's first complete video training and testing series that covers every single aspect from marketing to truck selection to truck maintenance to hiring to firing to training. It assists your guys in training, covers everything you need to know to get the edge on your competition. Those that haven't been through it, you're going to have an edge over your competitors, and that's going to be a great way for you to outpace the competition in your very market. So today's episode, again, is on how to outpace all the new junk removal businesses that are coming in throughout America. And if you are new, there's still a great opportunity, a tremendous opportunity for you to gain, to improve and grow your business as well, and we'll cover that. Junk removal is very much a growing industry all the way, kind of through and through. So I want to give a little bit of a backstory. I'm the owner of Junk Doctors Junk Removal and Hauling in North Carolina. In May, it'll have been 10 years since we started. We started old-fashioned way. Got out there. I used to race kind of the NASCAR short tracks in North Carolina. Ran out of money, so I was completely broke for the most part. So I sold off everything that I had that came from racing except for a pickup truck. I had this pickup truck remaining. And I went out on Craigslist and posted some ads on Craigslist that afternoon. First job came in, and then we were off to the races. We now have, I think we're at 13 dump trucks at the moment that are running between Charlotte, Greensboro, and Raleigh. In addition, obviously we've got Junk Removal Authority. We provide marketing services and consulting to the junk removal industry, and we build junk removal trucks. So we've been in this deal for a long time. It'll be 10 years in May. And when we started 10 years ago, there were probably, I would say, 6 or 7 companies in this market that went out of business within the first 3 or 4 years of us operating. One was called Junkyard Dogs. There was one called Junk Patrol. There were a handful of other small ones that were popping up on Google or Craigslist that were, not Craigslist, but Google that are no longer in business. Since then, we've had probably another 6 or 7 that have started and have since gone out of business. So one thing to keep in mind is the majority of these companies that get up and going, close to 70% of them, based on our calculation, are not going to make it to year 5. And about 50% of them won't even make it to year 3. And these are what we would call the professional guys, the guys that are getting on Google and Yelp and really advertising pretty hard. These guys, 50% of them won't make it to year 3, 70% won't make it to year 5. And you take the fly-by-nighters, the guys that get out there just on Craigslist or on Facebook Marketplace, and they're not really making a big investment of time or money, it's going to be much, much, much higher than that. Those guys are just looking to make a quick buck. So as we get into this episode, I'd like you to go ahead and post what area you're in, because what we're actually going to do is we're going to evaluate the increased demand in your particular area. So give us your metro market. So like in this case, we're in a little small town called Apex, North Carolina. Our metro would be Raleigh. So what's your metro market? And I've got a tool we're going to plug in to see what kind of demand Google's predicting as we come here, as the years go on. So junk removal companies now, because of the inflow, all the new information, when they are coming on board, there is an advantage they have compared to years ago, because when we first started, there was no information available at all. You had to figure it out on your own. 1-800-GOT-JUNK was the only person you could really study, and we were in a different boat than them, but we just had to learn. We kind of had to figure things out on our own. Now these guys can go and they can start. We're putting out a ton of great information on it. There's a few other guys that are putting out some solid information. So you have a huge advantage in starting now. So that does mean that your competition can be a bit more sophisticated than years ago. They're normally a bit more professional. They dabble in paid advertising. Years ago, there was very few people that were really hitting the advertising game hard. They were going on Craigslist, putting some ads out, and that was about it. So they weren't getting an influx of jobs from many, many different job sources. The one thing to keep in mind, though, they're still the same unsure and kind of indecisive people. And that's the thing to keep in mind here is the same people that went out of business years ago, even with the increased amount of information, there's going to be people that are going to take that information and they're going to grow and expand on it and do a lot better. And there's those people that are going to take that same information and they're going to do a terrible job of implementing it. So you still, the same numbers, the survivability rate of these companies is probably going to be about the same. So you don't want to be one of the cheap guys. I've said it before in junk removal, you got your top performing guys, and these are the guys that are considered professional, and you got everybody else. And the problem is when you're at the bottom and you're everybody else, literally the only thing you can do to separate yourself out from your competitors that are out there is cheaper, is you lower your price. So it's a complete race to the bottom when you're at the bottom. When you're up top, you're actually finding the best customers, because the best customers are going to go to the easiest place possible to find your business. So that's going to be Google, maybe Yelp, and they're not going to go way down on Google either. They're going to kind of make their way up top. And they're going to locate your business, and they're going to call you, and you're going to answer the phone because you're professional, and you're going to book the job. You're going to have a quick turnaround time because this is your full-time job. You've got enough trucks and enough people, and you're not going to miss out on very many good customers. So the professional guys are going to get the good ones. The really cheap guys at the bottom, the reason you don't want to be there is because the people that search for the cheap customers the cheap companies are cheap customers. So the guys going on Craigslist and finding most of their stuff on Facebook Marketplace or off of other lead sources, for the most part, are poor customers. Sometimes, not necessarily literally, but they're just very, very cheap. So you don't want to be at the bottom. You want to try and compete with people at the top. So the guys that have cheaper costs, that aren't paying insurance, and they're not paying for licenses and all the same type of stuff we are. They're probably not paying for taxes. It's cash going straight into the pocket. Those guys are not going to last long term. So you don't worry about them. You worry about, and you compete with yourself to constantly be improving, and then you just kind of figure out what other people in your area are doing, and you try and just be a little bit better at it. So on the junk removal industry, it as a whole is growing at about 20% year over year. So demand every single year is growing. So despite the fact we have all these new companies that are constantly joining, it is getting, the new companies aren't even keeping up with the increase in demand. Do we have any cities and all that have popped up there yet, Matt? Any metro areas? So if you want to, we're going to evaluate a few of these metro areas. We have Austin, Texas, Louisville, Kentucky, Los Angeles. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put up the United States as a whole. If you guys have any questions throughout this episode too, feel free to ask it. We got Mad Matt Mary back there running the show, and he'll be relaying those questions over to me. We get connected to the wireless internet right here, and we'll get something going. So we're going to look at the United States as a whole. What we're looking at right here that I'd already pulled up just a bit earlier is the prediction for the search term junk removal, and this is the Google Ads planning tool. So off the Google Ads platform, you can go to Tools and Settings. You'll come over here to Keyword Planner, get search volume and forecast. And the only keyword I'm going to look at here is the keyword junk removal. The brackets mean it's an exact match. That means it's not going to pull in anything else other than just junk removal. Now, obviously, there are thousands upon thousands of more searches and keywords, but if we evaluate one consistent keyword, it'll give us the data that we need. So what Google predicts from February 3rd, 2021 to February 2nd, 2022 is about 930,000 impressions throughout the United States. So if you see right here, impressions, 930,000. That's 930,000 searches for the keyword just junk removal, nothing else, and none of the other junk calling keywords or anything like that. If we come over here to the historical metrics, and there is one thing I do want to change here. I want to change this over to a $15 click. This is actually going to raise up the impressions, I believe. Yep, all right, there we go. That's what I was looking for. 1.3 million. So 1.3 million searches for the keyword junk removal throughout the entire United States. That is over the next, that's what Google predicts over the next 12-month period. So if I come back to historical metrics, the last 12 months, there has been an average monthly search volume of 90,500. So if we do 90,500 times 12, the last 12 months, that's 1,086,000 last 12. And then it is 1.3 million next 12 is what they predict. So let's say essentially what is that? That's going to be 214,000 additional searches. 214,000 additional searches, we divide that by 1,086,000. It's 19.7%. We might as well say a 20% increase in searches is predicted throughout the entire country. What that means is overall, that is a 20% increase year over year in volume, in search volume. So there's a 20% increase in demand for the junk removal industry year over year. And we have seen this, I've been tracking it probably the last 3 or 4 years, and that number has been consistent on 20%. There's not a peak, it hasn't been growing. It's been at least the last 3 or 4 years, a 20% increase year over year. So let's take a look at an individual market right here. We've got, the first one I got up here is Austin, Texas. So I'm going to slip over here and let's get the historical metric first. So we'll change United States. Again, guys, this is off the Google Ads planning tool. So even if you aren't running or you don't have access to a Google Ads campaign, you can just sign up for a free account and you can use this tool just using your Gmail account. All right, so we're going to choose this metro area, the Nielsen DMA region. 6,120,000 people is what it's saying it has. I've gotten the United States out, so that's all it's going to be showing here. Again, this should just be the keyword junk removal. Last 12 months to January to December 2020 is what we're tracking there. And this thing is showing just exact match keyword at 590 searches. We're going to look at the relation. We're going to look at the overall kind of percentages here. So there, I guarantee there's a lot more than 590 searches in that area. Again, this is an exact match keyword for junk removal. So if they type in junk removal Austin or junk removal any other cities, it's not going to pop up. But 590 is what they had. So let's say 590. This is Austin, Texas. We'll get a better eraser next time here, guys. All right, 590 Austin, Texas. This is the last 12. Hit forecast. I need to redo just Austin, Texas here. All right, so the forecast for Austin, Texas, it comes in at 12,000 for that same keyword through the same time frame. If I go back to the historical metrics, it was 590. 590 times 12 is 7,080. 12,000, so this is going to be well over 20%. Minus 7,080 is a 4920. 4920 divided by 7,080. So you're outpacing. It's showing a 70% increase in search volume there. Austin, Texas is a very growing market. So even if this is half wrong and it's only 35%, that's still a heck of a market. That's still very much a growing market. If we look at Louisville, Kentucky, we'll do one more here. So we got Louisville, Kentucky, and we might do Ottawa, Ontario, just to kind of get up into Canada. So if we go over here to Louisville, again, we'll do this metro area, take out Austin. So it's got the Louisville market at an average monthly search volume of 320. 320 times 12 is going to be 3,840. And then let's forecast out. So that's got 6,700. All right, so one thing we're going to do here, I'm going to reduce this down because it was actually, all right, it was computing the historical metrics at $10.50 max CPC. Let me adjust this. So it drops down to 6,300. So still, even in Louisville, it's predicting somewhere around a 45% increase overall in search for volume for that keyword. So it is a very much a, we have a Dublin, Ireland too. It's a very much growing market. Let's do one more. I'm going to do this, actually, let's do this Dublin, Ireland one, just out of curiosity here. All right, so, well, the problem is, language differences and search term differences, so this might not be, because this might not be very accurate, but I'm just curious here. So it forecast impressions of 830 for that particular keyword. Again, I don't even know if junk removal is the main search term, even if it's translated. I don't know if junk removal is the main search term in that area. Like in Canada, a lot of people use rubbish removal, so there's no telling. I'm not familiar with Ireland. The historical metrics for Dublin, Ireland. Over the last 12 months, showing about 360 or so compared to what was forecast here, about 830. So again, we're seeing 40–50% increase for that particular keyword. So it's very much a growing market. Before we advance to the next part, we've got a bunch of cities through, guys. That's probably you guys can run your own. Just go to the Google Ads tool. Even if you don't have an ads account, use your Gmail account. You can sign up for it. Any questions we've got? I'm good on that right now, Nate, too. All right, so if you got any questions as we go throughout this thing, just feel free to put them in the chat box. I'll be happy to answer them for you. So, as you can see, this is growing. The industry itself is growing tremendously. And the reason for that is because now, we've become much more of a society that consumes things, and we don't really repair things as much anymore. 25 years ago or 30 years ago, you had a TV repairman. There probably hasn't been a TV repairman in probably 15 or 20 years. People just don't repair stuff as much as they used to. Cars, on average, I think the last thing I saw, most Americans keep their vehicle, it was somewhere between 4 to 5 years, and they're upgrading to a new one. And years ago, that number would have been higher than that, except for, you go far enough back, the vehicles just didn't last all that long. But then, somewhere in there, this number has, especially over the last 5, 6, 7 years, that number has really kind of collapsed. And then the prices have come down on things. Televisions used to get a console TV back in the 80s. I think those things were like $2,000. And think about in 1980 how much $2,000 was. You were going to keep that thing for a while, because nowadays you can go get a 72-inch flat screen for $1,500. And $1,500 isn't near the amount of money that $2,000 was years and years ago. Things just don't last as long anymore. People get rid of more stuff. And the average American nowadays is also moving about once every 5 years. So once every 5 years, the average American is moving, and every time they move, they're going to be looking to get rid of things. And that's when junk removal companies are excellent. Take the baby boomers, guys. The baby boomers, this generation, we have an entire generation that made good money, that had good-sized families, and it's an aging generation, and they're downsizing. And every time they downsize, they might have accumulated stuff over 10, 20, 50 years, and they got to get rid of that stuff so they can go into a much smaller home or much smaller apartment. The demand on this industry is tremendous. If you're not in it yet, it is an excellent industry to get into because of the increased growth rate. And if you are in it, don't stress yourself out over all the guys that are popping in. All right. So how do you really outpace these guys? That's the entire thing on here is how to outpace all the new guys. Number one, you got to get the word out there about your business. And I'm not going to go into the specifics. We covered that on last week's episode, but you got to be doing Google Ads. You need to be doing SEO, Yelp, Nextdoor.com, email marketing, reaching out to property management companies, professional organizers. You can using your personal Facebook page, going by storage facilities and passing out your business card. Another thing I love to do, because one of the great things to separate yourself from the competition is to really build a brand in your area. So how can you do that? Look up charities in your areas or organizations like Rotary Clubs and Chamber of Commerce's and figure out if they've got something they're doing to help out a particular family. So if a particular family is, let's say it's a low-income family, that somebody, maybe a parent or something has recently passed away, somebody's in a bad situation. It could have been domestic violence deal. There's organizations out there all the time that are supporting people who've been through domestic violence. If you get involved in that organization and something comes up where somebody needs something of value that you can provide, go out there, do it for free. You're doing a good thing for somebody, but then you kind of cover what you're doing. Now, I'm not talking about saying who the person is or where exactly the house is or whatever like that, but you cover the fact that this organization does this, you're a supporter of this organization, and you're going out and you're helping out this individual. And you do a press release about it. So you put a press release out. You kind of cover that press release, even if it doesn't get any news coverage, and there's a good chance it will, even if it doesn't get any news coverage. All right, what's happening is that is an article, because the way when you syndicate these press releases, they'll go to different news outlets. They'll be posted online on their website. Maybe nobody even sees it. Maybe hardly anybody ever reads it, but you can put it on your website and on your Facebook page and on different advertising mediums, and you're building up that brand. And there's a potential it gets shared. And let's say that particular domestic violence charity, or if you want to call it charity, but support group, whatever you want to call it, that group is probably going to have dozens of members, if not hundreds of members. And I can guarantee you every single one of them is going to be in support of what you've got going on. So find things like that in your local community that you can involve your company in, and you're going to really build up that brand. And not to mention, from a non-business perspective, you're going to get a lot of satisfaction out of that. There's something about giving something to somebody and providing support to somebody and really helping somebody that's going to raise up your happiness level and your satisfaction level. And when you're happier and more satisfied, that tends to be when you make clearer decisions on your business as well. So there's a couple different benefits for doing things like this. Matt, just flag me down if we got any questions. Guys, if you got any questions at all, we got 2 questions. Go ahead and hit me with them right now, man.
All right, question number 1. What is the minimum budget to start a junk removal business, including buying the truck?
That answer, it can vary. So, all right, the minimum budget for one person in one area is going to be completely different than somebody else. I mean, you can go out and get I don't know, nowadays you can probably find a truck for $4,000. $4,000, you get a $1,500 trailer, $5,500, and you can be up and starting. Now, you would start cheap. If that's all the money you have, you're going to have to start out cheap, doing your Craigslist, your Facebook groups, yard signs, and you just figure out how to make it work, and you do your best to make sure you get off the truck and you go to better advertising and better customers and you raise your price up. But if you have to get started on the minimum, that's the minimum amount you likely need. Say $5,500, maybe some miscellaneous stuff, $6,000 once you get tools and all that sort of stuff. And when you start out, if you're trying to get really cheap, keep in mind, a lot of times you don't even need any tools because you're going to get tools off of jobs and you can really build up from there. That's not the ideal way to go. The ideal way to go is to have some more money to get started, to get good customers from the start. The guy that has to kind of just make do with what he has and just scrape and crawl and claw, or whatever you want to call it, to up into success is probably going to be about 2 to 3 years behind the guy that can start with a little bit more money and do this thing right. That doesn't mean the cheap guy can't succeed. It's just going to take him longer. What's the second question?
Second question is, I'm 24 with a 720 credit score, and I have a part-time sales job and have been running my own show for more or less a year now with my beautiful 2011 Sierra and no trailer. Is $20,000 enough to get the ship sailing?
$20,000. I mean, if you're doing that pickup truck, you could add a trailer to that and be great. My question is though, if you've got a sales job and you're making decent money, if you got that to about $30,000, then now you're at the point you could go out, you could get actually a dump truck, and you could really start this thing out strong. So if you have the means of getting up to maybe $30,000 within the next 3 to 6 months, you might wait, get to that, and then once you have that 30 grand, you're going to be in a pretty good position. Let us know if we can help you with that too.
All right, next question. Are the bigger companies outpacing the smaller companies through more keywords on their sites online?
So that's an excellent question. The larger companies that are focusing on Google Ads are going to have a greater budget that they can spend if they choose to. So there are keywords on Google Ads, and I'm talking mainly about Google Ads because that's the cost per click. On search engine optimization, no. The answer to yours is not really no, unless the larger company has just hired a company and they're spending more money where more is getting done and they're getting more links. They're building out more pages. You know, they can outpace, but if you're reasonably smart when it comes to SEO, and SEO is a time deal. You can learn SEO. If you're reasonably smart when it comes to SEO, you can, and you're hardworking, when you're not on the truck, when you're at home, you don't have jobs, or at night, whatever, you're working on your SEO, you can keep up with the big guys. There's nothing a big guy can do to outpace you once you've learned kind of what works, and you can learn it. On the Google Ads end of things, you've got ways of being very aggressive on ads, and you have ways of being less aggressive. So let's take a Junk Doctors. Junk Doctors is my junk removal business in North Carolina. We are very aggressive. Now, we won't always go after the number one spot. Oftentimes, we've actually found there's as much work for less money in number two, sometimes, and oftentimes even number three also. You have buyers that are going to buy at number one, you got buyers that are going to buy at number two, you got buyers that are going to buy at number three. You got some people that say that they're going to call the first person they're going to book with them. And you got others that say, there's no way I'm going to book my first person because I don't feel like I've done my due diligence. So they call you, no matter how good you are on the phone, they don't schedule you. They go to the second person. They figure out, you know, these two companies are real similar. They're very, very similar. I'm just going to book the second guy. That's who I have on the phone right now because the prices are similar, the way they operate, the availability is similar. Third company, same thing. You're going to have some people who are like, you know what, I'm not going to book my first two companies. I'm going to go to the third. And the nice thing is each time you work your way down, your cost is going down. All else being equal, your cost is going down. And I don't want to get a complete Google Ads breakdown right here, but quality score has a big thing to do with it. So if you work on your keyword quality scores, you can actually get a higher ranking for less money than some of your competitors. That'll go off, that's a completely separate subject right there to get into. The other part of it is you can go after single item pickups, couch removal, refrigerator removal, refrigerator appliance, that's a pretty common search for term. And these items, these single items, some of these single items are not very profitable. It's a minimum job. You'll probably actually lose money by doing those single item jobs. By the time you pay Google, by the time you go out, you pay your guys, wear and tear on the vehicle, fuel cost, you guys, disposal, you guys know all the expenses. By the time you pay all that, you'll actually have lost money on those single item jobs. These larger guys, and eventually to the point you want to get to, you want to target these single item pickups because you never know where a refrigerator pickup today leads to a whole home estate clean out for somebody's parents or somebody that's moving out tomorrow. So a lot of your larger companies, this is something Got Junk understands a lot. That's the reason Got Junk does these, or used to, I don't know if they still do, they used to do these mattress pickup days. That's one of the reasons. They do like a $25 or $30, I can't remember the price point, but it was like 25 or 30 bucks and they'd pick your mattress up if that's all you had. And what they would do though is they would schedule you out where they'd have a particular day where you pick up all these mattresses and they'd kind of go around in on a route. They made some money on that if they got enough pickups, but what they knew is that mattress removal that day would allow them to collect that customer's contact information so they can send them an email campaign on a regular basis. It would allow them to get used to the company. It would allow them to give them a refrigerator magnet, or they used to do these, I don't think they do anymore, they used to do these little cool 1-800-GOT-JUNK phone trucks they would give out. Anyway, they would do all this stuff because they knew that that person within the next 2 years, on average, was going to use them again, and for almost always, it was going to be a much larger job. So that's the advantage of doing the small ones. When you first get started, you're probably not going to have the luxury, or there's a chance you're not going to have the luxury, where you've got the ability to make less money off of ads, to potentially even lose money. So you start out being a bit more conservative, aiming for your junk removal keywords, your fence removal keywords, your hot tub removal keywords, your hoarder clean out, the stuff that's going to generate larger jobs. And as you make more money, you expand out your service area and you expand out the search terms to include more single item pickups. You get more aggressive. And then that's how you really exponentially scale your business, and that's how you outpace the newer guys that a lot of them won't do this strategy. They might start, they'll find something that works, or maybe it won't even work. They won't have the patience to allow it to work, and then they'll drop out. I believe we had another question there, Matt.
What is your take on TikTok or Instagram?
Yeah, I mean, so we use, for like JRA and for our business stuff, we use Instagram. For our junk removal stuff, we don't do a ton with Instagram, but I know of guys that have been successful in it. So that's actually an area I'd like to do a little bit more research on. Some guys up I think it's Junk Police, just a little bit north of us in the the New Jersey, Philadelphia area. They, I believe I've heard they've done a pretty good job with using their TikTok and Instagram account to actually generate some activity and some business. So I think it's I don't think it's a huge market quite yet, because if you look, most of your customers are going to be between the age of about 25 on the low end, sometimes even 30, but about 25 to 65 or even 30 to 65. And if you figure most of your customers at this very moment that are in that age range, a lot of them anyway are not on TikTok, and many of them are not on Instagram, especially as you get much above 35 years old or so.
Next question, should I get off the truck as soon as possible to stick with important administrative activities at home, like emails, social media, ads, answering the phone, and making sales?
A lot of that just depends. You should work to get off the truck at some point, and a lot of it, when you get off, depends on what's your propensity for work. And what I mean by that is all those administrative tasks have to get done, but if you can stay on that truck and really train your crews and just keep really just keep expenses down mainly. If you're able to do that, you're going to be much more profitable. The time to get off the truck is at the period of time where, one, you're missing phone calls, which you really, from a start, that it's dangerous. And I used to do all the time. You used to be sitting there taking phone calls while you're working, and it slows your jobs down and it irritates the guy you're working with. It's dangerous when you're driving down the road. You feel free to check out our contact center. I mean, it was created just so we are able to take your calls and book your jobs, and it's a lot safer for you, and you're going to be able to progress through your jobs faster. But if you're taking your own calls, if you haven't gone that route, and you're missing phone calls, or it's really slowing you down because your phone's ringing like crazy, that's when you need to start thinking about either getting off the truck or hiring somebody to take those calls. The next thing is once you get to the point where your truck is running, I'm going to throw a figure out, and obviously this varies all throughout the country, about $25,000 in revenue in a month. So that's about 75% or so, I believe, or 80% of the total time of slots you have are getting booked. That means you need another truck. And when you need another truck to run 2 crews, that means you need more crews. When you need more crews, you got more people to train, and you got a bit more of a complex business going on. So you need to start working other people into your position on the truck as you approach needing that second truck. And then you need to get those guys trained up where one crew can run nonstop while you work on another crew and some more team members and get them trained up, team leaders trained up. And then it's going to be a natural progression where all of a sudden, instead of being on the truck 6 days a week, you're going to be on the truck 5 days, then 3 days, then 2 days, and then none. You don't just cut it off. What great way to fail at your business and scare the hell out of yourself and have bad reviews come in and have things being damaged and trucks being crashed is to go from being on the truck all the time to completely off of it. It's also going to shock you when the profitability takes a hit. So you kind of ease yourself off of it. So as you get busier on other areas, you begin to ease yourself off, and before you know it, if that's maybe a 6 to 9 month, maybe a year time frame, before you know it, you're off. Guys, we'll get to a few more questions as we go throughout this. I want to keep on kind of moving through our agenda here on outpacing the new guys. We're getting close to finish. It sounds like we got some more questions coming in, so we're going to make sure to get to as many of those as we can before 1 o'clock. So, all right, we talked about just getting the word out there about your business. The next thing is obviously you got to do an amazing job. So you are not, and I say this over and over and over again, you are not going to build a profitable business, one that allows you to go out of town, vacations for weeks at a time, come back and the business is running great, one that allows you to make 6 figures a year, one that allows you to have the freedom to, if you got kids, going to kids sporting events or going to the PTA meeting or just doing whatever the hell you want to do, having hobbies outside of work. You're not going to get to that point if all you're relying on is brand new customers. It's simply not profitable enough. The acquisition cost on new customers is too high to make a successful business out of just new customers. That means you've got to get these people talking to you about talking to others about your company, coming back and posting reviews online, which does lead to more business, which in turn leads to more of the same, more reviews, more referrals, and more repeat business. That's what we call the 3 R's. So you do absolutely great work, and then you actively seek out reviews. Most of your competitors are not going to do this, at least not for a sustained period of time. If you do it for a sustained period of time, you're going to outpace your competitors on Google in terms of number of reviews. A lot more people are going to choose you because you've got that much better of a reputation. You also, and I mentioned this a little bit before, you need to do at least a bi-weekly email to your customer list. And you need to be you can't just be specials on junk. You're going to wear people out. That's when, if you get involved in these organizations, or if you have interesting, if you pick up an interesting item, talk to them a little bit about that, and then throw in a coupon at the end. So always kind of put an offer or coupon of service in there. If you're involved in these some of these charitable organizations that we talked about before, domestic violence or whatever like that, and that's just one of many that you could be involved in. If you're involved in those, then talk about the type of things that you're doing. As we get closer into holidays, Salvation Army or Toys for Tots, you can, Blake Gordon, Louisville, he set up, he got covered by at least 2 news outlets, and it might have been 3, for he sent his junk truck to different organizations, and he actually, they brought toys to him, so he was collecting these toys, and he took those toys off and he distributed them to an organization that would pass it out. I don't know if it was Salvation Army or the Toys for Tots program or who it was, but he got covered by several news outlets, and more importantly, he had tons of people. He was out there. He was out there at that truck when this was going on. He was talking to these people as they were bringing stuff. He was passing out business cards. So there's no telling how many hundreds of people he was exposed to there by doing a good thing. That's really building up a great reputation in your local market. So that bi-weekly email list, they remember you. That's how they remember you. So the entire key, if you haven't figured it out yet, on outpacing your competition is taking the information that's out there on how to successfully run a junk removal business. Whether it's doing the free stuff off YouTube, whether it's the video training series that's giving you the most in-depth knowledge from the stuff we offer, or it's going through our business package, which is the step above the training series, or it's doing anything else, either paid or free, getting all that information, it's taking all that information that's available that you possibly can get your hands on, and then it's you taking that and putting your own little twist on it, your own expansion on it, and outpacing what even that material is covering. And that's how you outpace your competitors, because a lot of them are not going to put the work in. A lot of them aren't creative enough to keep up with you. And once you obtain that top ranking, here's the nice thing about junk removal. You've been doing this long enough and you've got that awesome SEO ranking. We can pull up the Junk Doctor stats right now, and it's something, I wish I'd actually loaded that up. I'd have pulled up the analytics data, and it's something completely ridiculous in terms of the thousands of people that visit our website. And 60% of them, well, of the Google traffic, of our new Google jobs, 60% is organic, 40% is ads. We are number 1 or number 2 on almost every major search term in every area that we operate in. And that's just from us tweaking SEO service over time. That's us doing everything we talked about right here, constantly improving just to outpace our competitors. And it's tough for them to compete. Once you get to a certain point, what happens is you get these new guys that jump in here, and the new guys are essentially left fighting over the table scraps for a period of time. So if you're brand new and getting started, you're going to kind of fight over the table scraps that maybe the one large guy or the 2 large guys in your market have. Can you get out of that market? Yes, you can. But it is going to take some time, some perseverance, and really carrying out what we're talking about here. All right, we got any final questions before we wrap here? How many we got, Matt?
I got 2 questions. Well, one's a question, one's a request. First question, can you explain the different training packages and services you offer and what you recommend for a new guy in the industry?
Yeah, so if you're all right, so if you're in the position, let's say somebody's out there and they're evaluating getting into a junk removal franchise. And we have guys all the time, they're looking at junk luggers franchises, or that's the big one you hear about, but you'll hear about some others, Jiffy Junk sometimes, or some of these other companies that are franchised. There's probably a dozen of them out there. You hear about it all the time, and they're like, we're evaluating a franchise, so we're evaluating you. And for the most part, junk luggers is a good franchise. But what we tell people is listen, when you go with us, the neat thing you're getting with us is you're getting a business that's, one, it's 100% yours. So that means that means there's not a long-term relationship with us where you're sending a royalty every single month to us for eternity. So if you hire us for any of our marketing services or whatever like that, our contact center services, the video training series, whatever, it's either a one-time cost or it's an ongoing cost on a month-to-month basis. And if we don't perform, then you don't have to use us. So that's what's different if somebody wants to go the franchise route. The franchise route, there is the one advantage to the franchise route, if you go that way, is the franchise route, sometimes they have these national contracts. But the problem is they're so few and far between, we found it's not really a great advantage. Our business package is $15,000, our complete business package. Now, you don't have to buy the business package. That's the other neat thing about us. You can just use us for marketing services, just for contact center services. It's a la carte. It's whatever you want to use. You can just buy the video training series. The business package is designed it's the alternative to the franchise. Instead of paying I might be wrong, let's say $50,000. I think it's 65. Either $50,000 or $65,000 initial franchise fee for a junk luggers franchise. You can go with us. You get the video training series. It's never been out. No other franchise has it. You've got you come into town. You train with us in classroom as well as out on the truck. You got a year's worth of consulting. You got a mastermind group that you're a member of. There's a bunch of things that are really involved in going that route, and it's the best way to really jumpstart your success, and that's for the guys that might consider a franchise. The other route, I 100% believe in the training series. In the training series, we should get, if you wait till after this, we'll get a description. We'll get a link in the description if it's not already. That video training series, it is not cheap, but there's a demo, you can check it out, and then you can call in and you can speak with one of Matt. It's probably going to be Matt, either Matt or Shane, on that training series, and you get a full demonstration. And it isn't cheap. It might not be something you can do immediately, but you need to put a plan together to get it, because again, we're talking about outpacing competitors, and that was 5 months of work. If we'd have been able to put our hands on this thing when we started, we probably would have made $1 million sales in 3 years rather than 5. So the easiest thing to do is, we've got so many different things we do, is you can give us a call at 919-617-1975. We'd be happy to evaluate your situation and basically just give you a recommendation on what we think is best for you. And from there, you just take it and make your own decision. What's next, man?
Blake says, when should you raise prices?
All the time. I mean, just as often as you possibly can. We raise prices about twice a year, and never once have we raised prices and seen a noticeable decrease in business. That was a sustained noticeable decrease in business. Invariably, what happens is, as soon as you raise your price, you're going to go through a 2-week, and it's almost a science, it's scary. It's almost a 2-week slowdown, and you're going to question yourself on raising prices. And if you're not careful, you'll reverse them. And then all of a sudden, when you reverse them, it'll speed back up, or it'll pick back up. But yeah, about twice a year is what we've normally always done. And we'll do, one thing to keep in mind is, a lot of your profit can actually be gained in some of your, or a lot of your losses can be gained in your small pickups, or in the pickups in the middle. So when we set our prices, our minimum in our 8th load might be a little bit less, because a lot of times they're going to look at the minimum price, they're going to look at the full load. So one of the things that you'll notice when we set our full load pricing, I think I don't remember exactly what we're at now, but I'm going to say 3/4 load is $575, 2/3 $585, 7/8 is $595, and the full load rate is like $600 or something like that. It's probably not $600, it's probably like $599. So those upper price points we keep really close together, because it gets you some additional income. And then on that full load, that keeps your full load rate still down though, which if they're comparing to a Got Junk or whatever like that, we try and be about $25 cheaper on the full load than Got Junk. And actually, at one point I tried to get as expensive as Got Junk, and I swear every single time we raised the price, they did too. I don't know if it's a coincidence or not, but we found that to work all the time. The best customers, $15 isn't going to make or break their decision. So we on a consistent basis, we raise prices, which has been something great with junk removal, because we haven't ever had that negative decrease. What's the next one?
What is the most important thing I have to watch on a brand new Isuzu NPR after purchasing, like maintenance?
The brand new Isuzu, they come with, those trucks, they come with maintenance guides. I mean, the biggest thing is keep in mind, you operate in a dirty environment. So, if you're in landfills and transfer stations and all like that, your air filters are going to be sucking in a bunch of nasty air. So make sure you change them at least the minimum recommended number of miles, those air filters. Oil changes, I think we're doing one every 6,000 miles, which is, which I mean, most of our trucks are running about 800 miles a week. So we're doing an oil change, what's that, once every 6 weeks or so on those trucks. Oil changes and filter changes are the biggest thing you can do to extend the longevity of your vehicle. The other thing is just the guys that are driving it. I'm assuming if it's your first Isuzu, you're probably going to be driving it for at least a little while. Once your other guys get in that thing, you need the GPS tracking and you need the analytics data. We use Blue Arrow Telematics, not analytics, telematics. But we use Blue Arrow Telematics. It tells us how fast they're going, how many G-forces they're making in a turn or when they're braking. And you really need to evaluate that data. If somebody's being really aggressive, then you need to kind of calm them down. We've had a rear end in our truck go out because somebody made a turn, and luckily they didn't flip the truck over, but it brought them up on 2 wheels, and it came back down, and it slammed. It slammed the ground, and that rear end went out within like the next 100, 150 miles. So they're lucky they didn't flip it over. But that type of abuse is the largest thing. Oh, these things are pretty daggone bulletproof if you're halfway decent with them if you do the regular maintenance.
All right, a couple things from Juan from Bay Hauling. He says, Lee, can you make a video for guys who are already running a multiple truck operation but are looking to build layers in management and potentially sell the business in the next few years? He also says, I'm running 4 trucks and just ordered 2 more. I'm already off the truck and I'm now looking to not show up to the office every day. And do you have any tips on offering franchise opportunities?
Several different questions here. Yes, we'll put out something to help out the multi-truck guys, whether it's some YouTube content or a mastermind series that is aimed at those guys. Because I can put out YouTube videos on it. Things get a little bit more, just a bit more complex, not tremendously, but a bit more complex once you've gotten to 2, 3, 4 trucks and you're looking to go into additional cities or whatever. On the franchising end of things, I'm not a franchise expert. I know it costs, I think about, I'm going to throw a number out here. I'm going to give you a huge range. That way, hopefully I can be somewhat accurate. It's between $100,000 and $200,000, if not even $300,000 now, to get all the legal documents done to franchise. And also, that amount can go even higher if you're trying to do it in all 50 states. If I'm wrong on this, I'm going to just put a disclaimer out. Again, I'm not a franchising expert. I looked into it because at one point we thought we were going to franchise before we created JRA. But each individual state has their own set of regulations to offer a franchise in their state. So and I think some of the states are a lot easier than others. So I think a lot of times what people do is they choose the first, I don't know the number, it's 15 or 20 or 26 states or something, and they get released in those. They're approved for those. And then they add the rest of them over time. As they sell franchises, they collect those initial franchise fees. They take that money to then, in turn, get approved for franchising in other areas. The other thing on franchising is how are you really going to stand out? So if you're able to put together those national contracts, that's one of the largest, if you can be a franchise with national contracts, that's when you can really provide some value to people outside of the training and the branding and all that kind of stuff. So there's 2 questions there. What were they again?
There was the video for the multiple truck operations. He's running 4 trucks. He just ordered more and he wants to get off the truck. He's already off the truck, but he's looking to not show up to the office every day. And then the franchise question.
Yeah, those are all good points that we can kind of get addressed. The not show up every day would probably be a great video for us to create, how you can get to that point. And I'll tell you, a lot of times you're at that point, you don't even realize it. You just don't, an entrepreneur as a whole, it's like this. It's your baby. You brought this thing into the world, and you're extremely afraid that the people you've hired can't treat it as good as you can. And even if they're not quite as good as you can, they're probably going to get close, which is going to be good enough for a really great business for you to expand. So the largest thing I see is a lot of these. Some of you guys are ready, and you just can't quite take that next step. But at the same time, if you do it too soon, if you're not ready and you do it too soon, your business can implode. So that would be a great video for us to cover. All right, we still got some time. What else we got?
How many miles and how's the reliability? How many miles should be expected, and how's the reliability with the Isuzu trucks?
So you got diesel trucks, and you've got gasoline trucks. The diesel trucks, they're up to on the engine. I think it's 350 or 355,000 miles is what they've raised up the expected engine life. The transmission on the current ones, though, I'm hearing they're going to be going over to an Allison. On the current ones, the transmission life is about 250,000, 240. I don't know, 240 seems like that's normally when they go out. So you have to put about a $6,000 transmission on them, somewhere around 240,000 miles. The engine is about a $12,000 or $13,000 engine. If you go diesel, that's at 350,000 miles. So we've decided to go away from the diesel, and we use gasoline. And the nice thing on the gas trucks is there's less that can go wrong. The diesel trucks, from about 200,000 miles up, you might occasionally lose an injector. And these injectors, I think, are $450 each, plus the labor time. If you're going to change one, you might as well change all four. So, I mean, you're talking, I think it's a $4,000 or $5,000 job to put maybe it's $4,000 to put a set of injectors on it. There's just a lot more. All the parts are more expensive. It's harder to find them. That's the reason the Isuzu 6.6 Chevy engine that comes on the gasoline is the way to go. And I'm hearing the Isuzu is going to be joining the Fuso. The Fuso is getting phased out. But the Isuzu is going to join the Fuso with an Allison transmission. And that Allison transmission, at least on the Fuso platform, is a 5-year unlimited mile warranty. So I think they expect to get over 500,000 miles out of that transmission, if I'm not mistaken. So that's going to be the gas truck. It's cheaper up front. If you need if you ever do change out an engine, a lot of you guys should just move your bed. If you buy a good bed, the beds we build, it's our goal for them to be able to be transferred over to a new chassis. So you replace the chassis in 4 years, you get 4 or 5 years. It's $35,000 bucks. Or excuse me, it's probably by then in probably like 40 grand. It'd be like 40 grand for a new chassis. You move that body over, it'd be maybe $4,000 to move the body over, and for 44 grand, you got another truck that's going to give you trouble-free miles for the next 4 or 5 years. Gas trucks, just simply more reliable, less downtime, more predictable. Juan talked about wanting to get off the truck, or not get off the truck, just quit coming in the office. If you've got trucks breaking down and all, a lot of times that's when things are going wrong, that's when you as an owner need to be more involved. So just completely cut out the maintenance end of it a lot of ways, or the downtime on your trucks by keeping new equipment as soon as you can. What's next?
What are your thoughts on loans to guarantee capital for marketing ventures?
So that is an excellent question. I'm not opposed to them. And my answer now might have been different than several years ago. So we started with no loans whatsoever, basically because I had no credit history and I really couldn't have. So I would say if you're going to take out a loan to start your business, you need to do some good research. And we do market analysis quite often. And one of the things that we use that Google Ads planning tool, then we look to see the competitors in your market, how many reviews do they have? And then we're looking at the economic data. Is it a growing area? Is it an area with white collar employment? Is it an area that's got above at least average U.S. income, if not a little bit above average? Are there areas where people are doing well? And if your competitors are doing well and the company and the area is doing well, you're in a pretty good area. And if you use a proven success formula, then you can be successful in that area and you can repay that loan. There is another advantage to loans too that I found. The one motivating factor to debt, or not just debt, but committing yourself to paying something and doing something, is you've made that commitment. So you've got that little extra push because you're simply not extremely comfortable. You got that little extra push that's making you go out there and do the things you don't really want to do and the things that are uncomfortable. And sometimes that debt or that commitment is actually going to cause you to be successful. And then hopefully at some point you get to the point where you're making enough money and you've learned how to be a self-driven individual. You don't need that extra motivation. I mean, I've gotten to that point now, and we are at the point now that we're getting away from any debt at all. And for years and years we had debt. I think this upcoming year we'll probably be at the point we can start buying trucks for cash instead of having to take loans out. Unless the interest rate is so low, we do it anyway. But right now the only debt we've got is just some truck payments, and it's because the interest rate is just so dang on low on it. So you eventually want to get to the point you can have that motivation and that success without debt. But sometimes debt is that little extra push, and it can actually allow you to grow quicker, larger and faster. What else we got, man? We still got 5 more minutes.
I have a Wix website that is now ranking well, but I would like to upgrade the site cosmetically. Is that something JRA could do?
Yeah, 100%. What we'll do is we'll take your Wix site, we upgrade it, and then we make sure that every single page, that every single link that you have that's ranking well, that we create a corresponding page, or we'll do on any other pages that aren't necessarily there, we'll do what's called a redirect. So we'll audit your current page, we'll make sure everything lines up, we'll make sure that it's a clean replacement, and generally our pages are going to rank better than Wix, especially with a little bit of time and some ongoing SEO. What else we got, man?
There's one more. Do you have any more new success story examples that you haven't uploaded on your YouTube channel? They're all inspiring. Thanks.
Videographer Matt. After Matt asked that, he's sitting there giving me the thumbs up, and he's saying we do have more. We've also got some guys that are just taking their phone and recording themselves too. So I mean, we've got crews that go from time to time and get those reviews. We've got more guys that are just doing this deal, doing the selfie deal. So yeah, those are out there, and we'll get them released. And if you need more, guys, anytime, if we got references, there's probably I've heard Blake Junk Co. and Junk Masters in Minnesota and Russ Berry up in Rochester. And the problem with me naming people is I'm gonna miss people. So we've got, I don't know, probably 75 or 80 guys at any given point that would talk about the services with us. And we're happy to set you up with a few of those guys if you guys are interested in working with us.
Last question is, what are your thoughts on creating a website through WordPress and having you, JRA, refine the SEO?
We tend not, the issue is a lot of the SEO is the on-page stuff. So I'm reminded of, what was the saying with the mechanics? Some of these garages, they used to put signs outside, and it says something about billable hours is like, was it $70 an hour if I do it for you, and $90 an hour if you help me, or something like that. So the gist of it is if you go out and you do all your stuff, it's more efficient for us actually to build the site. It's actually going to be more cost effective, because by the time, even though our site's obviously going to be more money than you building it on your own, by the time we've gotten it called up, you're going to have as much money in it as you would just going with our site, and the results are just going to take a lot longer. So as a general rule, that's not that doesn't work great. I can think of a few clients that have done okay, but one of the guys, he paid like 3 times what we would have charged him for his website. And his site was good, he paid a lot extra for it, and that has worked out well, but most of the time it just doesn't.
Why would a Wix website not rank well?
The Wix sites, there's less customization you can do, and that's by design. There's less customization you can do on them. They tend to load a little bit slower. So I don't want to get, and one, I'm not a technical expert on these websites. We've got people that work here that are. But anytime you have a template on anything website related, it's going to load slower. And one of the largest factors on ranking, one of the most important factors for ranking on Google, is site speed. So the most efficient website ever is just a straight up HTML website. And that's a straight up coding website. Nobody does those anymore. If you had that done, it would be an astronomical, crazy fee, which would be stupid to pay. The next set down is a WordPress site that's not really built off a template. So what we've got is we've got just a very clean design. It's a bit more work on our end, and that's one of the reasons we charge more. But if you go put our sites through GT Metrics or pingdom.com or whatever, do a site speed test, almost always they're going to be many times faster than your competition's websites, and that gives you a little bit of edge in SEO ranking. They're just less customizable, they load slower. They're great for what they are to maybe get you started, but long term you need to move over to a WordPress website. 1 minute.
1 minute.
Got anything else?
Christian says, very broad question, but is there a rough estimate on what you charge on website creation?
Give us a call at 919-617-1975 for us to kind of go over, the different options you have, because there are 2 different options, and just us to really outline what it is that we do. You really need to understand the value out of what you're getting, because I can tell you a price, and it might scare off some of you guys. You might be like, I just don't want to, there's no way I'm going to spend that amount. But once we show you what it is that we do, I think you'll see that it's a pretty good route to go, and it's the reason that 140 people use us, and of those 140, I don't know how many websites we have, but it's probably 90, 90 or 100 websites. So that's a lot of reasons people choose us. So, all right, guys. Hey, we're right at 1 o'clock every single Tuesday at 12 noon Eastern Time. We talk junk on Let's Talk Junk. I am Lee Godbold with Junk Removal Authority. Again, video training series. We got some links in the description. If they're not there now, they'll be after this thing posts. Check it out. Check it out. Check it out. Hey, we make money on these services. There's no doubt about it. Some people rag me for selling this stuff because we do make money on it. But we made a commitment starting out. Any of these services we do, they are going to provide value to people. And the more we move out, the more value we're going to provide. And that's the guarantee that we've got. You will find value, lots of value in anything that it is that we do. We love helping people out. We'll take the hate that we get every once in a while, which is fine. Appreciate you guys watching. If you'd like to subscribe to this channel, please do so. Just hit that subscribe button. As you can notice, we're putting out a lot more content. Matter of fact, within the next week, it'll be at least a video a day. And we're going to get some variety. We're actually getting some on-the-truck stuff here, too, also. So you can actually get out on some of these junk doctors' trucks and check it out. I won't be on them, but we got characters out there that are probably more funny and entertaining than I am anyway. So we'll get them out there for you. Tuesdays at 12, though, we do these live shows. Thanks for watching. Thanks for commenting. Great show today. Everybody have a wonderful week. We'll see you next week.